get a quick show of hands of the people here who are not affiliated with the university, who are from outside industry? Wow, welcome. I did not expect that many. My name is Ellen Edwards. I've been the energy manager here at CU Boulder almost 5 years. I came in the fall of 2014. It's been a great experience. I love being here and love working with students, so thank you for having me. So I thought, because I expected some people who were not affiliated with the university to be here tonight, I'd give just a little bit of campus history. We have a very old, very beautiful campus. First building was built in 1876, and that's Old Main. It's a beautiful building. If you get a chance while you're up here in Boulder, go take a look. 25,159 square feet. Today, we have almost 12.5 million gross square feet spread out between 4 different campuses. So we've got our main campus, which they're trying now to kind of relabel as West Campus. That's because the people who are on East Campus don't like not being called Main. So we have, that's the main campus, West Campus. We currently are on the East Campus Research Park. We also have our Williams Village campus. Williams Village is primarily housing, residential facilities, and dining hall, and then one small, I think it's a rec center. You know, it's not as big as our main rec center on campus. But then up in the mountains, if you go up across Peak to Peak Highway, we do have a mountain research station. So well worth the drive. It's really cool to go up there, do a lot of alpine research. And it has solar, yes it does. We'll get to that. A little background about energy here on our campus. This is the West District Energy Plant. It was started in the early 1900s, completed in 1909. At the time that it was built, it was the furthest east building on the entire campus. And they expected at that time, of course, that campus would never grow any further east from that. Yeah, 1909. So if you look, see if I can get that's right over in here, right? So we are in this building way over here right now. So we've grown a little. Then that served as our main district energy plant, which produced steam and chilled water for many, many years. And about 10, 12 years ago, my director came to this campus and proposed building a new East District Energy Plant. It is located just right behind the event center. It also provides steam and chilled water. There's some of the facts over there for you if you want some numbers. Comment? One thing about our two plants, they do serve the same district energy loop or system. So it's not like one plant only serves so many buildings and the other plant only serves so many buildings. There's a distributed energy system that feeds the entire campus and that they both feed into. One interesting thing also about our West District plant, we have a combined heat and power cogen turbine over there, about 32 megawatts that we can produce of energy on our campus that feed into what we call the cogen loop. The cogen loop only feeds primarily the West Campus, main campus area, and a few of the buildings right now on East Campus. We hope to extend that as part of a resiliency effort, so that when we do have power outages or if there's natural disasters, that type of thing, we can supply energy then to our campus. For the steam and chilled water that's produced in both of these plants, they do stay on West Campus, on main campus. When you go over to our Williams Village campus, there's a smaller Willville District Energy Plant that just serves those buildings. And then these buildings that we are in currently have their own chillers and boilers instead of being on a district system. There are plans and proposals to create a district energy plant just to serve the research park. We certainly have the loads over here. And there's also development planned, more buildings, more construction, and it would be much more efficient if we had a district plant.
Are those gas plants or coal?
Natural gas fired, yeah, we have boilers in both that are natural gas fired, but for backup, we do have number 2 fuel oil in reserve. So that's an excellent question. That does bring up a lot of sustainability and emissions concerns. Of course, when this was built, wasn't even thought of back then. And really, 10 to 12 years ago when EDEP was constructed, natural gas was the way to go. Times have changed, something we're looking at now. Anytime you have any questions, just speak up. I get really nervous just standing up here, so I like conversation. And a little bit background about sustainability. I picked 2014 simply because that's when I came here. So really, that's all that's important. Prior to me coming here, there was a gentleman named Mo Trebrizi. He at that time was the director of engineering. Anybody in here know Mo? Yeah. So Mo not only took on managing and directing our engineering group in planning, design, and construction, he also took on sustainability and energy management. Mo enacted a lot of great policy, a lot of great direction, and unfortunately, he retired. When Mo retired, they decided to split his position truly into 3 different roles, specific roles. One was as the sustainability manager, one was for an energy manager, and then they created an assistant director position over engineering. Mo did a lot in his early days. He put the first solar on our campus, which is located on top of the UMC. Kind of small at 7 kW back in 2004. But then he installed an additional 12 arrays during his years here. During that time, pre-2014, of course, we learned about the Environmental Center being developed, founded in 1970. Over 150 student employees, 400 volunteers and interns. Wonderful organization. Any students that are in here certainly get involved. They truly lead a lot of the good policy and direction on our campus. As much as we want to do things in utilities and then in planning, design, and construction, it really does take our students to make things happen on this campus, and it's a great group of people to work with. Ralphie's Green Stampede is also a student-founded, directed organization, founded in 2008. They primarily lead a lot of the sustainability efforts within our athletics department. Very active organization also. First zero waste athletics events were done here on campus. That's through Ralphie's Green Stampede. So back in 2014, I think actually Mo announced 2013 that he was going to retire. And like I said, they did split the position into 3 parts. What's interesting about this is that Mo's position was housed in planning, design, and construction, which is part of infrastructure. So our campus is set up with general fund buildings and with auxiliaries. There's a difference in how we're funded, where our money comes from, and how it can be spent. Prior, Mo was only within the general fund realm of infrastructure. When they decided to break his position into 3 parts, they created my position as energy manager underneath utilities. That was a big change from how it was done previously. Utilities is an auxiliary, and the difficult thing with that is that I don't only work for planning, design, and construction like Mo did, and just for infrastructure and general fund buildings. I work for the entire campus. All of our money comes in through rates. That's how I get funded, and I'll go through a slide with that. But it really did split up what responsibilities different people had on our campus. So I do work with athletics. I work with housing. The Environmental Center, that's an auxiliary. I work with them. A little bit different in how it used to be. We do have a sustainability manager, Ed Von Bleichert. I think probably some of you know him. Ed is just general fund buildings. So that's where groups like the Environmental Center and Ralphie's Green Stampede really step in to bring more cohesiveness to our sustainability programs, pull them all together to make it work. Back in 2017, a woman named Heidi Van Genderen was hired to be our first Chief Sustainability Officer. Heidi's role, though it is housed underneath infrastructure and Vice Chancellor David Kang of infrastructure, she really has the direction, the need, the desire, she really is very passionate, to bring all the different campus groups together so that we have one common goal, one common end game that we need to get to. It's very challenging for her. She's been here now a little over 2 years. Still trying to get to know everybody. It takes a long time around this place. But when all that happened, our vice chancellor, when he first came here, was the vice chancellor of infrastructure and safety. But his direction, David Kang's direction is, and his passion, is for sustainability and particularly energy conservation and resiliency. So they did rename his title to give him a little more authority over sustainability, and he is now the Vice Chancellor of Infrastructure and Sustainability. What they're hoping to develop is an all-campus sustainability council. We have sustainability meetings, we have group meetings, we have meetings within the different groups. They want to bring representation for students, for all of the different auxiliaries, faculty, staff, everybody together into one council that can meet. We're hoping quarterly. It can be challenging around here to get everybody in the room at the same time, but that's really the direction that they're trying to go. Any questions? So one thing that leads us in where our sustainability goals are, where we want to go, is a campus master plan. The last master plan was developed back in 2011. These are developed every 10 years. Planning, design, and construction have started the process of the next 2021 master plan. The master plan looks at everything from how are we using our land, do we need to purchase more land, transportation. It addresses everything that we need to look at to make our campus function very efficiently. But part of that, and the part that I focus on, is sustainability. So there is a section, if you go online, I kind of just clipped it out, I know it's hard to read. You can Google Campus Master Plan, CU Boulder, and get to read all this. But really what we're trying to do is outline some of the goals, where we want to go, where we should be today versus where we want to be in 20 years, 30 years. So they established these goals based on a 2005 baseline, which I thought was interesting. So by 2020, a 20% reduction in the energy usage intensity, 20% paper reduction. Listen to that. I don't like printing out a lot of paper. I still go into meetings where people walk in with stacks of paper that they hand out. 10% water reduction, 25% decrease in petroleum fuels, and zero waste for operations and construction. Greenhouse gas reduction goals, scope 1 and 2 only, 20% by 2020, 50 by 2030, 80 by 2050. We are at the 20% by 2020. Well, I'll get into that here in a little bit. We're going to struggle hitting the next two at the rate we're going, to be honest with you. Biggest challenge with these goals, when they created it, it was holistic. We have grown on this campus significantly. Look at this building that was acquired and then renovated and now occupied. Seal building next door, brand new building. Look at all the new construction that we added on main campus. The athletics facilities, a lot of new construction. That didn't take into account growth. That was holistic. So when we talk about EUI reduction, I'm okay with it. We talk about holistic reductions from a 2005 baseline, and it's challenging.
What's EUI?
Energy usage intensity. So we're going to look at the amount of energy used in a building, and that includes everything, not just electricity, but we convert natural gas, the steam, the chilled water. What's consumed in a building per square foot. That's the key. When I look at per square foot on campus, and I look at the different building types, and we do have to take a look at research buildings like these being more intensive versus just a classroom building. That makes sense to people like me that manage energy. The challenge, like I said, is the holistic. Here's the number, that 135,609 metric tons. Now you need to reduce it by 20%, 50%, 80%. Oh, but by the way, we're going to add 14 million square feet to your buildings. So that's a challenge.
Well, I had understood that when this building came online, it was LEED certified, or there was the next one over. I'm trying to remember that, because I thought that when
Are you in the building?
Facility it was.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for bringing that up. All new construction and any major renovations of 25,000 square feet or more are required by the state of Colorado, because we are a state entity, to at least meet LEED Gold. Okay? This building was an existing building which they tied, they built that little walkway over there to the wet lab. So CU's brand new, right? So we did take a look at just this building. Would it achieve LEED Gold? No. We did do an energy project here. We did a performance contract, an ESCO project to try to upgrade it. But at the time, it probably on its own would not have made LEED Gold. So what they did was they combined, because technically this is SEEK, it's a complex, is what they went after to get the gold certification.
What's SEAL?
Okay, so SEEK is Sustainability, Energy, and the Environment Complex. SEAL's the wet lab. The L stands for the lab, so it's still Sustainability, Energy, Environment Lab. But it's the brand new building directly next door, which is south. Yeah, completely brand new. This was an existing building. I think this was a data center many years ago. The university acquired it. Excuse me, Quest? Quest. University acquired it, and then they decided to do a major renovation in here. And we did an energy project at the same time as the capital project.
So you expanded the footprint?
This building did not expand, but yes, we did add square footage with the wet lab, the brand new building up to the south of us here. And it's connected by a walkway.
You kept this one, the original.
Correct. Yeah.
The zero waste for ops and construction seems very ambitious. Can you speak just a little bit to that?
It is very ambitious, and it has been a challenge. We do have guidelines for our construction management group for planning, design, and construction on recycled materials, where they should go, how they should be managed. I will say, when we did this major construction on this building, people kept sending me pictures of the dumpsters that had, yeah, who did that? Did you send me those? Who sent those pictures? We did get a lot of complaints that cardboard and things that should not have been going into waste receptacles that were going to landfills should have gone into recycling were not. It's a challenge because we dictate through our contracts with our contractors to do these things. I'm not kidding. If you're not there watching them every second of the day, you don't have control over it. It's a very ambitious goal. We're working with planning, design, and construction to get it enforced. It's a lot.
Why'd you put the parking people on?
Why'd they what?
Sorry, why did you put the parking people on? They seem to get every single parking.
I get a ticket all the time. I've had so many since I've been here, and I'm worried because I didn't park in that certain lot you were just showing earlier. No, they're diligent. I will give them that. But keep in mind, over the last, well, I've been here 5 years, probably 2 to 3 years before that, this campus underwent a substantial amount of construction. So much so that they ramped up PD&C, hired a lot of people. It was challenging, and then it kind of faded back off. So when you're doing that much construction, you do miss things, unfortunately. And when we talk about operations, you know, that's just the construction side. So operations, when I work with our operations group to do simple lighting replacements or smaller projects, once again, it's the same concerns. You can't be on top of your contractor, and they try to get away with everything they can. It's a way to save money. Sad, but true. And I used to be a contractor. Planning, design, and construction. So planning, design, and construction, all of our campus architects, they have all of our project managers for construction, contract managers. They're that group that's in charge of construction, basically. Anything else? So let's get to the fun stuff. When I came here, I asked, where's the energy management plan? We didn't really have one. As great as Mo was, he never put it on paper. If you knew Mo loved to make little yellow sticky notes. And I found millions of them when I came here. So we all sat down. I sat down with my director. He said, do this. And I'm no savant. This is pretty basic stuff for energy management. You always want to optimize your buildings first. let's get rid of the waste. Let's make sure we have the most efficient systems. Let's make sure they're operating properly. So we do that by doing audits, assessments, recommissioning, getting our eyes out into the building. I, as one person, cannot do 12 million square feet. So I do take advantage of some contractors and a lot of student groups. The young man that was here that spoke earlier with the Energy Club, I've used them for many years to do audits for me, and it's wonderful. So that's really that first piece. Get your building operating as efficiently as you can. That may mean replacing equipment, replacing lighting fixtures, adding controls, just really getting the building to operate properly. And then let's keep it that way. Commissioning, when you're doing it in the new construction or recommissioning in the old standard way of doing it, it meant people going out into a building, sitting at a piece of equipment, having people back at your building automation system, doing point-to-point testing. Okay? It's time-consuming, it's very expensive, and every building drifts. So ASHRAE, American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, they propose that buildings are recommissioned every 3 to 5 years. That's a great hope, great goal. It could take me 3 years to recommission one building on this campus. So it's not realistic, but it still needs to get done. So what we've proposed and what we've been piloting and trying to get put on this campus is what we're calling intelligent energy management. All the systems in our buildings are controlled by building automation systems. The data's out there, we have sensors everywhere, we've got all this information coming back to our control center. Why can't I use it? Why can't we do predictive analytics, predict when something's going to drift, predict something's going to fail before it does? These can be predicted by changes in temperature, changes in pressure, changes in airflow. It may mean adding some more sensors and then getting that data out of the BAS, but it gives us data in real time. So it's called continuous commissioning. So let's do what we can to get our buildings working properly. Give me the data out of those buildings to make sure they continue to operate the way they should. Yeah.
Something we did in my previous campus is we took the energy management folks on campus and paired them with faculty in the programs to get students doing all the stuff that you don't have time and money to pay people to do. And it worked really well. So we did it both on kind of physical systems as well as on data systems. So having people that can just look at a data stream and find faults and find whatever else.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a really good educational experience for the students and just really helpful to the university.
Yeah, no, I love that. We do work with a lot of students. I work with a lot of professors. There's a slide toward the end with a whole bunch of pictures of all the professors and students I've worked with, and they're so bright. You know what? And not only are they super bright and anxious to do things for us, but they think of things that we old folks don't think of. They're still very young in their thoughts and very creative, you know, so it's been great working with them. The only difficulty that we seem to have, especially with BAS systems and controls management, we have a control shop that sits over there in the stadium. Bunch of guys that have been there forever, HVAC techs, you know. They don't want anybody touching their controls, you know. All I can do is get information from them. I'm not allowed to go back and make corrections. We have to fill out reports and give them information to hopefully get them to do it. There's a picture of a student we had hired. He worked for us for about 3 years. He had a lot of experience after his bachelor's degree. He went and worked for Honeywell. A lot of programming experience, worked in intelligent energy management systems. Brilliant kid. He even struggled, you know, having somebody with, he worked for about 7 years in between that time and the time he came back to get his master's. He was incredible, but we all struggled getting the shops to accept, you know, some of the suggestions that he made and them allowing him in there. We pride ourselves on this campus as trying to develop it as more of a campus as a living lab. I think that's all coming. I think more and more of that student involvement with the actual buildings will be there. We've just got to get everybody on board.
We baked ours into the courses, so we had.
I only do that with a couple professors right now. Yeah, but that's an awesome idea too. Need to do that more. Yeah. but then the students leave me, you know?
Let's keep a relationship with professors, man.
Yeah, but then every year I retrain kids. It's a fun part though. So anyways, continuous commissioning, that's that middle piece. Fix the buildings, get them working correctly, keep them working correctly. And then we can start addressing, you know, what we really need to look at for renewables. What do we need to look at for our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals that we have out there? And with that, you know, we're trying to look at more on-site development. Our Vice Chancellor David Kane, came from the military. He came in here preaching resiliency. He really wants on-site production of the energy. That'll be a challenge here because of our loads, and we are land constrained. But he wants more on-site before we start looking at large-scale off-site. So that's really the direction that we're going right now.
What's the percentage of energy that CU uses? What percentage is actually created here on site?
Very little, about 3%, but we'll get there. About 3%.
And that includes those natural gas?
No, that is just renewables and not the turbine. Right now, we do not have the natural gas-fired turbine active. It was rebuilt about 4 years ago, about the time I came here, and it is still not fully commissioned and operating. We're just testing it right now.
And the idea is, though, that would create electricity, though? Like
Correct.
That's what that.
But there's a challenge with that, and that's the inside of the turbine. Kind of a cool picture with Kenny there, when they took it apart and put the new pieces in. The challenge with that is our agreement with Xcel through our interconnection agreement and the tariff that we have. Look at you laughing. Tell me, what do you think? Not surprising. And it's not a challenge. It was just simply an agreement that was made, 20 years ago when the turbine was originally put on this campus. We have to elect when we're going to run it. We can't just turn it on and run it whenever we want. So we have to elect. They try to get us to elect a year out. That's one of my director's responsibilities. How many hours we're going to really run the turbine this year. He has to base that on economics. We purchase natural gas through third-party purchasing, and then we only use Xcel as our transport to get the natural gas to our campus. So we're playing the market. The natural gas market's pretty volatile, though recently it's been cheap. About 3 years ago, after I'd been here, my director purchased a large quantity of natural gas on the open market, thinking we could get the turbine up and running and elect more hours. And unfortunately, through the construction of the rebuild and the recommissioning, we've struggled. So it's not running. So he did have to sell some of that natural gas back. But it's not just as easy as saying, oh, we have a turbine here now, we're just going to turn it on and let it run all the time. Yeah, we can't do that. Any other questions? Yeah?
Does that include looking at rooftop solar?
Yes, I'll get to that. The majority of all our solar is rooftop, but I'll show you that here in a minute. Yeah?
Have you explored transitioning to electric heating systems, like heat pumps?
So that is a big discussion on campus right now. We do want to get away from natural gas simply because of the city of Boulder's goals that are out there. University is the second largest consumer of energy in all of Boulder. Number one's IBM out there off of the Parkway. We're number two. If we do not start addressing some of their goals and concerns, they're not going to make it. So yes, natural gas is being looked at. There's an issue with that too. EDEP that I showed you earlier that we just completed in 2017, those are natural gas fired boilers. That was a $92 million, I think, project. Yeah, and like I said, 10, 12 years ago when it was being developed, natural gas was not a concern. That was the way to go back then. It's 10, 12 years later. Now, what are we going to do? So there is talk about going all electric. Whether that could happen on this campus is still being evaluated. I think it'd be a challenge.
So where's the new turbine that's not online yet fall into this?
It is a natural gas-fired turbine. It would have to be rebuilt to take in another energy source. I will tell you what we've thought about, not for main campus, before, and now you people are hearing about things that really aren't out there yet, but the Williams Village campus, much smaller campus, a lot of the equipment that old plant is really old. It needs to be replaced. So if we're going to look at getting rid of these old boilers, let's look at more solar. Let's look at getting away from the natural gas boilers. We took a trip out to Stanford. If any of you ever get to go to Stanford, it's incredible. They've got what they've called their SESI. It's their strategic energy plan where they converted to thermal storage. They no longer have steam on their campus. It's all hot water, lots of solar. And they're heating this in these huge tanks and storing this energy and using it throughout their campus. We can't do that on main campus. There isn't a planner or an architect on this on this campus in this place that will allow me to do that, because they tore up a lot of the roads. They tore up Stanford. They showed us pictures. It was incredible. Stanford, though, has a lot of money, for them to be able to build it back and to take those huge trees and store them somewhere and bring them back and stick them back in the ground, which they did. It was incredible. We can't do that. They literally, they had these huge trees, and they had pictures where they came in and picked them up and took them and set them on a farm, took care of them for 3 years, brought them back and replanted them. When you're Stanford, you have money. But we are looking at that type of a conversion over on the Willville campus, simply because the Willville plant, it's due. It's time. So, having said that, if you go by our Willville campus, they're building a brand new Willville East Res Hall. That new Res Hall has already got all of the infrastructure for the hot water and for the thermal storage being designed into it. And that's the direction Housing and Dining is going with all of their new buildings. So when it comes time, they're ready to go. Hot. So all of this great stuff that we want to do, where does the money come from? We're a state university. We don't have a whole lot of money. But energy conservation is funded out of utility rates. The utility on our campus, Utility Energy Services, it's actually an LLC. We call ourselves Buff Power. We're a true utility, just like Xcel, just like Con Ed, just like wherever you're from, the big utility. We have to follow all the same regulations, all the same standards, do all the same reporting, because we have a turbine and a microgrid on our campus. We can produce energy, and we sell energy to our customers. So as a utility, we do add a small percentage to every kWh, to every pound of steam, to everything that we provide to campus. There's a small markup. That money is collected. That's what pays for our new facilities. That's what pays for extension of the district energy system, the infrastructure, when we add more buildings to the chilled water loop. That's how it gets paid for. So I get a little bit out of there. And I have a couple of different funds that I work with. One's called a Fund 20. This is state lingo. That's expense only, $75,000 or less. I can't get much done for $75,000 project-wise around here. Then I have Fund 78, which is called Repair and Replace, an R&R account, a couple $100,000 in there. It's for larger projects. Then again, $200,000 doesn't buy you a whole lot when you're looking at a major project. So that's what we work with year in, year out for my budget. But I do get some rebates and incentives, particularly back from Xcel, that go into another bucket. If I'm working with athletics, say, and they're funding it, those rebates go back to them to use for other projects. I try to steer them toward just doing energy work, but really it's their money, it goes back to them. But then any of the projects that I fund, regardless of who my customer is, or for general fund buildings, goes into a pot, and I can use it for whatever I want to do with it, as long as it's energy. Most of our projects have to meet a simple payback of less than 7 years. That's something that Campus Finance asks me to hit. I don't always hit it, but I try. And that's energy only. When we talk about LEDs in particular, A lot of maintenance savings, a lot of operation savings. I can't account for that in my ROI. I can only look at energy. So that makes it a challenge too. Okay. So because we have the cogen, the turbine on campus, I can't take demand savings because Xcel, as part of our tariff, would say you'll just turn your turbine on to lower it and you can control it. It's a challenge. Now, some of these buildings, this building in particular is not on the cogen loop. This has its own direct feed to Xcel currently. That will be changed here in the next 2 years. They're going to extend the loop for resiliency opportunities. Right now, I can look at demand charges reduction here, peak shaving, that type of thing. And there's only a handful of buildings where we can do that. But in general on campus, unfortunately, no. Okay, so first part of that three-legged stool we were talking about, let's optimize our building. We do that through assessments. We've done a number of third-party performance contracts. Everybody know what a performance contract is? Anybody not? We've done a few of those here on campus. Like I said earlier, love getting students involved. I work with certain classes and professors who every year, every semester, they do audits for me and assessments as part of their class structure. Internally, we get a lot of suggestions from faculty and staff. We have a hotline, it's always buzzing. But I get a lot of messages saying, hey, you know what, come look at this. Let's try to make this better in my building. Deferred maintenance, we have a very large deferred maintenance backlog on this campus. So I'm part of the deferred maintenance team also that we try to use energy money, but because of that 7-year or less payback, a lot of the things on deferred maintenance are capital projects. There's really only a small percentage that I can contribute funding to, but it is still part of what we're trying to look at with energy money. So we have a mentorship program on our campus where we as faculty and staff, I don't know if there's many faculty involved, but as staff particularly, we mentor with others on our campus to learn about what they're doing, see how it fits into our jobs, how can we collaborate more. Surprisingly, a lot of people want to learn more about energy conservation, and people, even like I put up their police and parking services, they have done mentorship programs with myself and with our engineering group, and they come up with projects. So that's another way that we're doing assessments in our buildings. We do some external recommissioning. I've got Xcel Energy right now doing 18 buildings for audits for me. So that's typically paid for out of my expense budget. We're identifying measures, things I can do to optimize my buildings. And then those are just some of the current projects that have come out of these assessments. Sarah Dawn did mention Green Labs. Kathy is so valuable on this campus. We have a large number of research facilities on this campus, and they're our biggest consumers of energy. Kathy's that go-between. I'm certainly not a PhD in biology or chemistry or any of those things. Kathy speaks their language. We meet, Kathy can go to the researchers, look at their equipment and say, you know what, there's better stuff on the market right now. Let's work together to get that replaced. Let's get you a higher efficiency unit. So I run calculations, Kathy does too on some things, but then we try to come up with funding to help those researchers get that old inefficient equipment off our campus, and let's replace it with some high efficiency equipment. Kathy's wonderful. I don't know what we'd do without her. Love her.
Questions, your assessment, is that a big chunk of money that this segment is costing you or not?
No, to be honest with you, recommissioning is far more expensive for me. Like I said, with assessments, like the Xcel assessments that we're doing right now on 18 buildings, they ran a special $100 and you could get an audit done, you know, just to encourage people to do it. So we took advantage of that. I try to use as many students that I can. Let's just take advantage of the people we already have in the buildings. Recommissioning, on the other hand, is a challenge because we don't have the full smart energy systems set up yet. So they are still literally in the buildings at the piece of equipment. Somebody else is at the computer doing point-to-point testing. Takes a lot of time. In our major research buildings, researchers don't want people in their space. That's their domain. For us to be able to shut equipment off and test things, it can be a challenge, and it takes a long time to get done. So that's really where the majority, I would say, of the operation and the expense budget goes to, is recommissioning.
In the back of my mind was also whether these expenses basically pay for themselves. I mean, you are identifying weak points in the whole building.
So when I developed the program and kind of sold it that I wanted to do this, do assessments and do recommissioning, my intent in previous positions that work this way, you come up with those measures, you come up with the conservation measures that you want to implement, and then you have that capital fund to make them happen. It's not quite that smooth on our campus. We have a lot of entities and a lot of groups involved who I develop the measures, the deficiencies lists, then we present them. Then we present them again. Then we start proposing projects. And then other people jump in and say, well, if you're going to be in the building doing this, well, let's get this done at the same time. Then we have to go after funding for those other pieces. So yes, in theory, it should pay back fairly quickly. Recommissioning typically does. Same with the assessments and audits. If I can limit that ROI, I know what they give me will pay back. We don't always implement the measures immediately to see that payback. Yeah. Yeah.
Does the
No, you're fine.
does the concept of microgrids fall under your purview? I mean, as I'm thinking about it, it could span several of these different groups.
Yeah, you know.
And is there any work being done toward that?
Yeah, a lot of work actually. My director, Brian Barozak, is Director of Utility Services. They threw me under utilities, like I said, when I came on board. Our main campus is a true microgrid already. We've got the turbine that can generate. We have the controls in place to island and then to come off the grid and go back on the grid. We've got renewables. We don't have any battery and energy storage yet. I'm trying. But that was all under utilities and my director, under Brian. We are looking, and I think we'll get to it in another picture here if I don't keep talking too much. We are looking at extending that around these buildings, and at one time, Vice Chancellor Kang encouraged us to look at Seek and Seal as a mini microgrid and implementing controls to island off just these buildings too. So we're always looking at energy storage. We've had a lot of evaluations done, looking at a lot of renewables. We'll get there. But yes, the microgrid falls underneath utilities. But having said that, you know, we do have our engineers. We have electrical engineers in our planning, design, and construction group who are involved in a lot of the design meetings and that type of thing. But in the end, it's under Brian. It's under my director. Okay. So yes, we do have solar energy here on our campus. There's 17 arrays. You could read this yourself. I don't need to read it to you. Unfortunately, it's only about 3% of our total load right now. Which is very small. Even though we have 2.8 megawatts, it's very little. Our base load on campus is around 10 megawatts. We peak 20 to 23 in really bad days. So we got a long ways to go. I know our Vice Chancellor has talked about, Vice Chancellor David Kang, about being 100% renewable on site. Anybody think that can happen? Sounds great. I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to happen. We've had lots of consultants, as well as NREL. NREL performed their REOPT. Anybody heard of REOPT? Renewable opportunities. It can't be done. We do not have enough land space, roof space. We just don't have it to meet our load on site. That is our first priority, though. Let's do as much as we can on site before we start looking elsewhere.
What's your potential on-site? Do you know your total potential?
So according to NREL, we could add about another 4 megawatts. I looked at a little more and tried to be a little more generous and look at things that NREL didn't look at. Came up with about 8.5 to 10 megawatts, which I'd love to do. But that does involve every single flat roof, That involves carports on every single parking lot. It involves a lot of solar on flat ground that they may build a building on in 20 years, you know, so there's a lot of limitations to that. But we keep trying. We're working toward it.
How much can energy efficiency reduce the demand?
So the goal, so our demand, keep in mind, as we continue to build more square footage, that just keeps going this way. I can do conservation projects, but because of this, the goal is to really keep our demand level. Let campus keep growing. It's my job to figure out how to get from up there back down to here, right? It's a challenge. I'd like to see 20-30% reduction. I think I did a high level, just kind of overview of all our buildings and compared it against ASHRAE standards for existing buildings, and the new energy standards of what the EUI should be. We have opportunity to reduce quite a bit of that energy consumption in some of our older buildings. But as we keep growing, you know, the hope is really just to keep it flat. We're growing tremendously all the time. Yeah.
Solar is very heavy. I know the Assistant Chancellor, the Vice President, President wants to keep it on campus as much as possible. Can you talk maybe more about the large scale opportunities, or is that just turning a cold shoulder right now?
So, well, we're not turning a cold shoulder. We're trying to continue to evaluate them as they come. Xcel Energy, depending upon municipalization and what happens there, Xcel Energy has approached us on a number of offsite opportunities. And to be honest with you, environmental attributes right now, RECs, if you want to call them that, though they're not typically referred to that way anymore, are cheap. They're cheap. I did an interesting little RECs, renewable energy credits. Did an interesting little study here, and if we have time, it's on my computer. Looked at all of our energy that we're producing with solar on campus now, and what's its true value? Because of what we're paying in our PPA rates, there's no real value financially. We can only look at it sustainably. So when we talk about what Vice Chancellor Kang's passion is to get more on site, I have to deal with our financial group. That's a whole nother conversation. It's a very different conversation than the one we have with Vice Chancellor Kang. So we're going to get more solar on campus. Financially, it's becoming more difficult because we are not receiving any solar rewards on our cogen grid right now. We maxed out in the medium program. Medium program's only 500 kW. We maxed out on that a long time ago. I can't get any rewards. That brings my PPA rates in anywhere. Right now, we're looking around 11 cents a kWh without any of the rewards. I have one on campus that's over 14 cents right now. It's hard to make work financially.
Can you work with equity finance partners for solar?
So it's an interesting discussion. Just like doing these projects where we looked at energy projects, campus likes to finance internally. So the investment tax credit, and it's being reduced unfortunately, we did get a partnership with Ameresco. We put out an RFP many years ago with the agreement that they would pass through the ITC and the rate. Once again, campus finance really likes to finance things internally. Going third party, unless I can get a vendor like an Ameresco or somebody to actually do the construction, the design, the construction, and then pass it through to us, it's a challenge. Yeah, they limit me so much. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to ask you a quick question. And first, I want to give you a shout out for being able to really directly answer these questions. These are a lot of tough questions. This is a tough audience, and you know, you are really stepping up, and you're not making excuses either for.
I don't want to make excuses. The reality is that we have to address it. So.
And thank you. I just wanted to ask if Xcel Energy is offering any kind of demand response, demand side management counseling to the university. This is a big organization talking to a big organization, and I just want to see if there's any kind of shout out from them to you guys about solutions.
So there has been discussion. We are really controlled by what the PUC comes back and tells us. We do have our campus attorneys. We also have consultants addressing the PUC. There are a lot of policies that we would love to see changed. Demand, like you're talking about, what I can and cannot do because we have a turbine on this campus. The fact that I'm limited in my solar awards at 500 kW, we're way over that, you know. The intent of a lot of these things are for single entities, single accounts. Main campus, one account with Xcel, that's why we're limited. Even though I have 200 and some buildings on main campus fed into that microgrid, one account. That's what we have to work with the PUC to address. That's not me. I give a lot of supporting data to our attorneys. That's been a big topic just in the last month. So there is talk that they're going before the PUC coming up. Yeah.
In terms of financing major renewable energy projects, I know that many universities, the funding, there's a lot of funding available through the Alumni Association. Has there ever been an effort to tap into that kind of money to really step up?
So it's interesting. When I first came here, there was an alumni that donated or said he was going to donate $10 million to the university. I was approached with, if you had $10 million and you could reduce energy, what would you do? Put that together. The foundation, the different groups on campus that work with these alumni, in the end, they decide what to take forward to them. I've yet to have an alumni call me personally and say, I'm giving it to you for energy. But we are approached when money comes forward. We put together a business case. I've yet to get it. But yeah, that would be a great opportunity if there's any alumni in here. Yeah. Just saying, I'll take it.
Somebody has to give those groups of people ideas.
Yeah, and we do. We work with the foundation, and we work with the different groups on campus. And like I said, we build our business case and we put proposals out there. I just unfortunately have not had that money handed to me yet for energy. There's been some sustainability money, I understand. I'm not in control of that, so yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Super happy to hear. I've spent a lot of time at the commission, at the Utilities Commission. Super happy to hear that you're going to take some of these issues to the commission. My experience is, don't get your hopes up too high at the commission.
Yeah, I've been told that.
but you might have noticed that we have a lot of Boulder folks in leadership in Denver now. Starting with the governor, our Senator Fenberg has worked
big change
magic.
in the last year, just since I've been here in the last 5 years.
And if you could feed it up through, through Heidi and everybody. I just spoke to Senator Fenberg a couple days ago, and he would really like to hear what needs to be done. And a lot of things that you're talking about, there's a legislative fix for that. So and this is our window. We got that 2020 is soon on us. So
and that's really a big part of Heidi's job. Heidi has a great background in policy. She came from the DOE. I certainly don't. I'm an engineer nerd that sat and did calculations for too many years.
I would pick up the phone and call Senator Fenberg. It's amazing what happens.
I'd probably get fired for doing that, to be honest with you. But I'll talk more to Heidi. Okay. Most of our solar on campus is through PPAs. We do have a few arrays, small arrays on campus that were just purchased. Like I said, rates range anywhere from 0.044 cents a kilowatt hour up to, that says 12.81, but with escalation over the last 4 years, we're up around 14 cents now on that particular PPA. So that's our current, what we've got in construction right now. We're adding another 303 to the rec center. And then Willville East, another 151 kW. Let's see here. That's the design that they've come up with for the rec center. This is the design for Willville East. Anybody see anything special about this? Come on, somebody. Or that right there. What's so great about that?
It's on the tile.
Yes.
Like, what?
So that's they did. It was a very big fight. That's the indoor practice facility. Athletics wanted that to be the first net zero athletics facility in the country. First DRB meeting, design review board meeting I was at, they told us we could have a little corner up at the top to just be a display, just to be a sample. Well, there is already a belief on this campus that we do not put solar on top of our red tiles. Yes, please, go talk to people. We fight it a lot. So campus planning, campus architects are following the Clouder architecture. He's the guy that designed like Norland a million years ago. They don't want us.
Integrate them to the tiles.
That's a whole nother discussion. Yes, we've had that. But what really sold the IPF, if you look, there are no tiles underneath those panels. They are attached to the standing seam roof. Lots of money. Yeah, lots of money got saved. That saved it because we didn't have to pay for the red tiles.
They should pay you back.
I wish. If I could only just get a small percentage. So that's something unique about Wheelville East. Athletics drove that, okay? They're an auxiliary. They wanted it. Rick George made it happen. Very strong man in meetings. If you ever meet with this guy, wow. Wheelville East Housing Dining, very proactive about being platinum, LEED platinum. They fought to get, once again, solar tiles, those are pitched roofs, red tile roofs on their roofs. We don't have that anywhere else. No general fund buildings that anybody will fight for. So these two, that's on main campus. This is over here on the Wheelville campus. Lots of response. We love it. Please do more. The students want to see it. Faculty, staff, everybody loves it. The more we do, the more we can get our auxiliaries to help support it. It will happen. I'll never put it on Old Main. Everybody brings that up. You can't put it on Old Main. Well, I'm not going to put it on Old Main. Our new construction, though, come on. Especially over here on East Campus. Okay, I'm done. I'm done ranting. There's all the solar we have. Majority of that is on flat roofs. That's why you can't see it. Anybody ever wants to go on a tour, I'll gladly take you on a tour. But we actually do have solar on our campus. Oh. I'll send it to you, Sarah.
A virtual drone tour.
We actually...
The man to do it is right there.
Talk to Ryan, huh? So our operations group, we get innovation, well, the campus gives out innovation grants, and one of the grants that was given out was for a drone. We use it to examine some of the solar arrays when we don't want it up there, but they're primarily using it to look at roofs, condition of roofs, especially like Old Main. You're not going to get on top of Old Main. They use a drone to go up there. It's pretty cool. So when I first came here too, I was like, why aren't we doing more? So multi-site solar development, potential like we talked about earlier, 8.5 megawatts maybe up to 10. Flat roofs, parking, ground arrays, everything I could think of. Campus architects weren't too happy with me. NREL re-opt, we hired NREL to evaluate where our goals are today, where do we need to be, how much more in renewables do we need to hit it, can we do that on site? Like I said earlier, they came back, you're truly not going to do it on site, you are going to have to maximize it on site and then go look off site. But they also helped us develop kind of a micro plan for energy storage. We'd love to put more on this campus. We only have uninterruptible power supplies, UPS systems right now that are just backups. They sit there, they're stranded assets. Let's start looking truly at energy storage. Any of you, if you've ever been out to Panasonic and seen what they've done out there, they're big. It looks like a big old trailer off of truck, and they're all lined up. Once again, my architects say, you're not putting that anywhere where those can be seen, but we are looking at that. It'll change, it will come. This is for you guys. Put a red roof over them. So that's funny. If you go out here on campus, one of our electrical distribution points, they literally made them build a wall around it and do that so that it looked like everything else. A lot of people ask me, why don't we have wind turbines? Okay, that's why. Not only would the city of Boulder never allow us to put one up, they're mad at us already because our buildings are too tall. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But But in working with NREL too, any of you know that live here in Boulder, it's either 0 or 150 miles per hour. It's not a good steady state. So I always like to show that. Everybody gets a giggle out of it. So lastly, we are working on a strategic energy master plan, the SEMP. We hope to have it done in 2020. It's going to address everything from, well, we're going to look at the standards. We're going to look at protocols on how to develop a true strategic plan to integrate resiliency and sustainability into the energy plan. I was talking earlier about, we're in that building right there. Right now, energy, this comes over, this is where that funny building is where they hid some of the electrical equipment. They do want it, Brian wants to extend the loop to include these buildings onto the microgrid, what we call the cogen microgrid over there. So that's going to be addressed also in the strategic plan. We are just now in the process of interviewing respondents. We had a pretty good response back. We're not interviewing them yet, we're still reviewing. Some of them are like thousands of pages long. So that's where we're going. That's really not just me. We have sponsors, Heidi, our CSO, our AVCs, our assistant vice chancellors that are involved with operations and planning. We have a full development team which brought in key members from all the different groups on campus. And then project management's being organized through PD&C. So we really, I put can't see that yet. I put third-party expertise on here. No matter what I say, no matter what somebody on our campus says, people always doubt you. So it's always good for us to get that third party, an outside professional, what am I trying to say? Input, yes, from someone else other than, it's just Ellen saying we need to do this, right? So that was the direction and why we went that route. Look at all the smiling faces. So part of my job really is to do a lot of collaboration with student groups. These are all professors, students, researchers, or people who have worked for us, students who have worked for us, who I've worked with just in the last year. This is just 2019. Those are the projects that I was involved with. So it really should be only like 5% of my time. Turns out to be about 30% of my time. But like I said earlier, these kids are brilliant on this campus. We have researchers on this campus. Are you recognizing people in the pictures? Love working with them. It's great to hear their ideas, the young enthusiasm and passion. Anybody up there, you want me to tell you who they are? I see you pointing at pictures. So any students in here, anybody with the Energy Club, there's always new kids every year, new MENV students. I've even talked to a couple of your professors about some capstone projects to do. Reach out to me. It's just ellen.edwards, colorado.edu. We give tons of tours. I give lectures. I've even graded projects before. Anything like that, reach out. We really enjoy working with students, and the push from campus administration is the whole campus as a living lab. So we got to get the students involved. So there you go. Thank you. And 4 minutes over. Questions? Yes. Go ahead, Chris.
I've heard bits and pieces about CU Energy. Do you speak to that at all?
No. So we are always trying to do partnerships outside of the university. We are always trying to look at grant opportunities. Shell came up as an opportunity between the university, between a researcher, and Shell, of course. There's not a whole lot I want to say about that at this time. It's still in development. There's been a number of meetings. We're going after another grant. We just put in another grant application. So we'll see.
A quick question to the audience. I understand there might be some people from the School of Mines here, from the Sustainability Department. Did they make it?
I'm from Mines.
Okay. Right,
Yay!
and I'd encourage you to ask an inter-college question if you have one.
I will say we do get students from other universities on the Front Range reach out to us all the time too. And they want to be involved in some of the projects we do. So we do collaborations if there's anything that comes up. You're next, didn't you?
How will municipalization impact energy use?
I am Switzerland. I do not have an opinion. That is the official university response. It will affect us. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's not going to affect us. I think there are pros and cons to both sides. Xcel Energy is still our provider right now, so unfortunately, when we talk about partnerships and things that we want to do with Xcel Energy, and they've come to us about a number of them, it slows it down. I hope that the vote coming in November can either speed things along or put things to a stop, because it has delayed us and it has kept us from doing some of the partnerships and programs that we've tried to do with Xcel. And to be honest with you, I think the city has a direction and a plan, but they're not ready to partner with us on things either, so we're in limbo. You know, and regardless of whichever way it goes, we will work with whoever, we will make it work. So I'm Switzerland. Okay, you're next.
So now that we no longer have an oil man as our president of the university,
Sorry, I shouldn't be like that.
Is there any plan to increase the density of public EV charging on campus?
Oh, yes, there is. Excellent, excellent. So we do have a transportation master plan being developed right now. But when I first came here, this electric vehicle charging station that's right in front of our building here. Hey, we got some in the back now, come on. But the one out front, when I came here, I came from Sprint Corporation, which you saw earlier. We did EV everywhere. I was like, where is the EV on this campus? I took some of my funding, which technically is sustainability money, but not energy, and put that out there. Yes, thank you. You're welcome. So since then, with the hiring of Heidi Van Genderen as our Chief Sustainability Officer, there is a transportation master plan in development. I worked with a gentleman in the transportation group, Clark, I went blank on his name, to get more of the grants that were available, which is how we got the ones out here. Plus they're putting more over into the parking garage underneath the IPF. The master plan is to put, the indoor practice facility, that building right there.
Because I know there's some new charging stations in the parking ramp next to the region, but they're permit only.
Okay, so yes, they're permit only, but if you have, you're not with the university, are you? Yeah, if you have a permit, anybody on campus that has a permit already can charge their free. It's just part of one of your benefits. But we do have stations that, you can pay up, but unfortunately not that one. There is one at Wolf, and that's the oldest one that's on campus, and to be honest with you, it rarely gets used. Bunch of lawyers. Yeah, we've got great use, especially here. Of course, it's Seek, but that's coming too.
Okay, thank you.
I had 3 subjects. One, Boulder Community Hospital and its potential for filling up the landfill, and how, we use this building. Is anyone on campus been consulted in regards to the utility of a large public works project like that, and the demolition and the full embodied costs of everything?
Not me. Yeah, if that's been discussed, it's certainly nothing.
Are there
that
not programs on the campus that are dealing with those embodied energy?
There could be, I don't know. I'm really not involved with that. All the outside entities that come in and do discussions, we want to do this, we want to do that, a lot with transportation right now and with the city. I'm not involved in those. Those are above me. My focus is truly on campus. What?
What happened at Seek to preserve this building?
What do you mean to preserve this building? Why did this building get preserved? So I think this, and it was before me, when this was Quest, they sold it, and we have a real estate services group who looks at all opportunities throughout all of Boulder anytime a building comes up for sale. So we actually own, the university owns buildings all throughout Boulder. Wilderness is over there by Boulder Brew. The various buildings all over the city that we have presence in, that we own. So real estate services is always evaluating those opportunities because we are landlocked. There's really not much more we can do on our campus boundaries if we want to expand more other than like what's going on over here between engineering and business, then we have to look elsewhere. So that again is a completely different group than I work with. I'm sure they're looking at some of those opportunities. I'm not privy to any of that. I'm not involved.
Do you have any idea of what's going to happen with CU South potentially as far as it's being pushed other? It's pretty far from the central campus, and as far as keeping it on microgrids or keeping it connected?
So it's not connected now.
Right.
There's a lot of discussion with the annexation. I'm sure, you know, being from Boulder, you've heard all of this. The university, and I probably shouldn't, this is my opinion. The university has talked about putting low-cost housing over there for faculty, staff, and graduate students. Anybody that's moved here from anywhere else comes here just like I did 5 years ago, and I'm shocked because I can't afford a house here. Faculty, staff, researchers come here, they can't stay here, they can't afford to live here, they leave. So the university has talked about, look at you guys smiling, yeah, you know how expensive it is here. So the university has talked about using that parcel of land, because the university does own it at this time, to do development for housing, some type of, I shouldn't say low income, but affordable housing over there. That's when all the discussion started with the city and the annexation, the flood plan. Once again, I'm not part of that. I just read what you read on the daily camera. I hope they can work it out. We have a lot of potential over there to really create a net zero, renewable, campus. It'd be one more of our campuses. We don't have infrastructure there now. We could start from scratch. We've looked at how much solar would it take if we did these buildings, how much battery storage. But until you get past the politics with the city,
but it wouldn't be tied in the way Carruthers is with your plan.
No, I don't believe that would ever happen with South Boulder. That's just my opinion, knowing it's separated. We've talked about, what is that, Martin Acres, and having to go through there. If we were to ever tie in, it won't happen. I'm sorry, I don't think it'll happen. Yeah.
The project you were just talking about for the affordable housing, is that in partnership with the Boulder Housing?
Like I said, I'm not a part of that. I don't know. I hear those discussions. There is a great need for affordable housing around here for students, faculty, staff. We're not highly paid individuals. Any alumni out there? And it's needed. We have a lot of great people who come to the university from out of state or other parts of, and we need it. We really do. It's hard to live here. Yeah. Yes, Sarah?
Also, I'm not really talking about that, but we have a Boulder Affordable Housing Research Initiative. Jennifer Fleury, she's out of the Geography Department, and so if you want to share any information, feedback, advanced research.
Okay. Yeah. I was surprised to hear you do so much work with volunteers, and I was surprised because it's actually expensive to work with volunteers. You need quite a crew. I mean, if you look at museums, they have a huge staff just to manage volunteers. So how do you manage to do that?
So I'm lucky in the respect the people that volunteer for me are students, researchers, who have somebody else, like in a classroom setting, it's a class project. Yeah, they're volunteering to do an audit for me, but it's part of their curriculum. Voluntold. So I don't struggle with that. And truly, even like the Energy Club, who year after year come to me and want to do projects. They want something for their resumes. They're passionate. They give up their hours. I make some of them do walkthroughs at 3 a.m. just so they can see how a building operates when nobody's in it. These kids get up and do it. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
On some of your first slides, you had chilled water or whatnot. Yeah. Is chilled water used to cool down all the buildings?
Not all the buildings, but yeah, we do produce chilled water. It comes out of the plant around 43, 44 degrees. Big old chillers. Come for a tour one day, give me a call. goes out through the district energy loop and goes into certain buildings. Not every building on this campus is cooled. A lot of the old buildings, all they had in them were steam rads for heat. The engineering complex had its own chillers, cooling tower, boilers. We're trying to get those on the central loop. When I talk about the central loop, that's what's fed from our plant. That's steam and chilled water to cool and to heat our buildings. Yeah.
Is that next to environmental design?
That's the old one. That's West District Energy Plant. That's that original one that was built in the early 1900s.
Where's that one down?
Well, it's not on my picture. So that's the event center. It's the big building behind it with the smokestacks behind the event center right by the highway. Yeah.
Assuming there was funding for it, which probably not in the near future, but if those natural gas plants were replaced by like an electric turbine of some sort that was run off of solar, is that a doable thing? Like whether you could still keep those centralized heating, cooling stuff?
No, it would take a lot of infrastructure within our buildings, a lot of change. That's a lot of money. And that is one of the arguments. Like I said, when we talk about the Willville campus, housing and dining services, older campus, except for the brand new building, of course, that they're building. But the plant itself is old. It's time for replacement. Some of the infrastructure, the piping, crumbling, falling apart. It's time to do it. Main campus is a different animal. Yeah.
So Enel built an entire building around a supercomputer and heats and cools the entire campus, or at least one other building with it. Is there an opportunity like this in Boulder?
I don't know about Boulder. On our campus right now, I think the intent that, we looked at this building in Seal as that mini microgrid, as that opportunity. We worked with NREL. I go down to NREL a lot. I get to go down there all day tomorrow. I just love going down there. But as a campus as a whole, no, I don't see that. But if we could do the mini microgrid like we proposed, we were trying to get a grant with NREL and Sandia at the time. It could happen in a small application like the ESIF down there at NREL is really just truly that one building. Yeah, it's a cool place. Have you toured it? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so cool. Anything else?
What about energy sharing between the buildings? What percentage of like your overall cost benefit could this be, transacted energy? Even without storage, just transferring energy when different things, or is everything being used the same all the time?
It's not all being used the same all the time, but our buildings have very specific uses. We have research labs, we have, classroom buildings, office buildings, and unfortunately, we're trying to make this East Campus the East Campus Research Campus. Right now, all over that campus, everybody's all spread out doing different things at different times, different loads. Yeah. It would be very difficult when you're on a microgrid and you have a district energy system to do what you're talking about with sharing. Right now, we're already sending chilled water through this entire campus, and I have one building, Gila, wherever it is, with these towers right here.
Oh, J-I-L-A.
Yeah, Gila, that drives my entire load. Yeah, I want to take it completely off the grid, take it completely off our central loop, put its own chiller in there, because it drives my entire load at the plant. So I'm pumping water all over that campus just to feed that building. Yeah, that's not real efficient. I'm sorry, what? One more question. Okay, we're done. Thank you.